Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. My name is Nadian Sands. Whoa, look at those new graphics. And this is Learn How to Edit Stuff. Let me just stop you right there. Yes, this is what my hair looks like. I normally wear a hat, but I got my hair cut today and I'm feeling awfully confident. Yeah. Anyways, like all lessons, I am very excited about today's lesson. Been getting a lot of messages and emails from you guys about how to color grade in DaVinci Resolve and kind of like how to move around in the program and also how to do selective coloring. So we're gonna do both of those things today. If you guys watch my Costa Rica vlog, there's like a couple sections in there where everything is black and white except for one color. That is selective coloring. So I'm gonna show you guys how to do that today. We're gonna go over mask tracking and all the different panels inside of DaVinci Resolve and the most important shortcuts that you'll need to get this done. DaVinci Resolve is a very intense color grading program, and they just made it even more intense by announcing DaVinci Resolve 14. It is still in current public beta, but they've made this thing a very, very beefy editing system. You can actually edit videos inside of DaVinci as well as color grade. I haven't done a full edit in DaVinci yet, but I'm very excited to try it out. If you guys want to check out the announcement video, the link is in the video description below. I suggest you watch it. It is free. You have to pay for the pro version if you want to do anything larger than 1080 resolution, but it is a free program for anything that's 1080 or lower, so I totally recommend downloading. If you haven't installed it yet, I recommend installing it now. That link is also in the video description. We're jumping in DaVinci Resolve 14, color grading. We're gonna go through all the panels, all the cool tools that you have access to, and selective color grading for this lesson. There will be more DaVinci lessons. There's a lot to cover. All right, once you've installed DaVinci, why don't you go ahead and open it up on your computer. And if you've never color graded in DaVinci Resolve before, you won't have anything here. I've done a bunch of stuff, so like I have projects that are all offline because it's all on a different hard drive. But right now we are just going to create a new project. And first things first, I'm going to save the project. I'm gonna call this selective color tut lol, and I'm gonna click save. Immediately it throws you into the editing panel. And obviously there's nothing to edit because you need to put media in your project. So let's navigate down here to the bottom and you'll see that there's different panels down here. So there's media, edit, color, Fairlight, which is their new audio integration into DaVinci Resolve 14, and deliver. So we're basically going to be covering these three and also deliver. I haven't really used this much, so I can't really speak intelligently about it, but maybe in future tutorials. All right, first things first, come over to media, and this is where you're going to import your media, and I'll explain what these things do over here. So right now, I'm just gonna grab a clip from my hard drive, and I basically have an excerpt from my vlog, of the Costa Rica vlog. And if you saw it again, you'll notice that this whole scene is selectively colored, where like only the reds pop and only like this is in color, and the cat's eyes are only in color. So I'm gonna bring this into my project. One of the cooler features of DaVinci, if I come over here and I right click, I'm gonna go to Scene Cut Detection, and it's gonna open up a new window. And I'm just gonna click Auto Scene Detect down in the corner. And what it's gonna do is it's gonna scrub my entire clip and look for any time that there's an edit. And that's really super cool. It basically looks for major scene changes. If you have jump cuts and stuff like that, it won't really work. But check this out. I'm gonna come down here to Add Cuts to Media Pool, and it's gonna ask you to change your resolution of your project. Hit change, exit out of this guy. And now it's put every single clip that was in that master clip down in like my media bin. So if I go ahead and select all of these, and I right click and go to New Timeline using selected clips, call this Costa Rica 1, click create, and then it will create a timeline down here in my bin, and you can tell by these little icons in the corner that it is a timeline. So if I double click on that guy, it will open up the edit window now, and as you will see, it did a beautiful job of actually going through all of my footage and cutting exactly where the next clip starts, which is super, super cool. Really cool feature of DaVinci. Try it out. Go ahead and try it out. Why don't you just try it out? I don't know. Just try it out. We're moving on. All right, so now once I've got that buttoned up, now it's time to go to the color tab. And now this is where people will start to freak out. Like, why does it say no stills created? What are these lines? What are all this stuff? We're gonna go through it right now. Just calm down, all right? First, let's start right here in the middle with this preview window. You can come and click on all your individual clips, and it will load from the very front of your clip, and that is just a still image of kind of what the clip looks like. So this is where you're gonna be looking at all your footage, and you can kind of scrub through it here. You can scrub through all your individual clips, and this is your main viewer window. Now, directly to the right of that is DaVinci's node-based system. Now, what are nodes? Basically, it's like using different layers of color correction, but they're just little squares that connect, and it's kind of confusing, but it's not. Alt-S is the keyboard command. I can just start adding nodes, and what they are is serial nodes. So Alt-S is serial node. And basically on all of these little squares, I'm gonna add different layers of color correction. So today, we're just gonna be focusing on the cat And we're going to change the eyes. We're going to make everything black and white except for the eyes, and I'll show you how to change the eye color. We're going to color grade this to make it look nice. But for right now, what I like to do is I like to leave node 1 nothing. I don't like to do any color correction to that at all, because if I ever need to go back, I can delete everything and get back to my starting point without having too much trouble. So I'm going to hit Alt-S to create a new node, and I'm going to right click on that and go to change label. And basically this is just a great way to keep track of what you're doing in here. So I'm going to do H/M/L, which is high, mids, and lows. And now I'm going to come down here to my coloring panel, and you guys should be familiar with this. It is a curves adjustment, so you can pull this down, pull this up, and it will adjust the exposure on a curves plane like you're used to seeing in other programs. If you right click on any point, it will automatically reset that point back to 0. You can also come and adjust colors automatically, so you have the RGB values over here like you're used to seeing. Over here is something that you're not used to seeing, so let's go left to right. We have the shadows, the mids, the highs, and then the overall. So if I were to adjust this, you'll see that it kind of does everything. It does the high, mids, and lows all together. I'm just dragging this little wheel underneath. And this is how you will adjust the parameters of shadows, mids, and highlights. And overall, you can do an overall color adjustment. You can kind of just drag this around. It will change the hue. If you drag this one, which is your highs, it will only change the hue in the highs. Same thing with the shadows and the mids. So you can change selectively the colors in your shadows, mids, and highs, which is super cool. You double click on these to get them back to 0. So that's your standard shadows, mids, and highs. Now there's 3 little buttons up here, and this is kind of where it gets confusing. I don't ever use this second button, but it works exactly the same, except it gives you RGB values for each one. So if I wanted to drop the greens and the shadows, I can do that here. I can drop the shadows down here, and it basically just does the exact same thing that we just did, but on a different level, and you can hit this little arrow to reset it. I don't ever use this. The other thing is this third little dot over here, which is your logarithmic coloring of your shadows, mids, and highs. Ooh. Don't get confused, just try to soak in the knowledge. The difference between your primaries and your log is that your primary, if I were to drop down the shadows of my primary, you'll see that it starts to darken everything, including the mids and the highs for the most part. And that's what your primaries will do. Now, if I reset that and come back to log, if I start dropping down the blacks, it will only do the blacks. It's only gonna do the black blacks and the darkest parts of the image, and it's gonna leave my highs and mids intact without degrading the rest of the image. And I can just keep pulling this down as far as I want, and all it's doing is getting the blacks blacker. Now, I recommend using a combination of the two, of primary and log, to get what you want out of your footage. Color grading in general is very subjective. There's no right or wrong way to do it. It's kind of whatever you think looks cool, whatever you want to do stylistically with your video, that's what you're going to try to achieve. I'm just here to tell you the tools that you have available to you to achieve that look. All right, so I'm on my serial 2 node, high, mids, and lows. I'm gonna come over here to my primaries, and I'm just gonna start to get this looking good. So I'm gonna drop down my mids a little bit, I'm gonna drop down my shadows a little bit, and I'm gonna drop down my highlights a little bit because it's looking a little bit overexposed, especially in the white part of the cat's face. Now, once I've got that looking decent, I'm gonna come over to my log, and I know that my highlights are kind of my problem here. So if I start dropping down my log highlights, you'll see that it really mutes the cat's face, which is too much. So we're gonna just pull that back until it looks not so overexposed. And I'm gonna show you guys a shortcut, which is great. If you hit Shift D, it will get rid of all of the grades that you have going on. So no matter how many nodes you have, if you hit Shift D, it will bypass all of them. And if you hit Command or Control D, it will just mute the node that you're currently active on. And those are important shortcuts that you will 100% need for everything that you're doing in DaVinci. So you can just kind of check against your original footage what you're looking like. So I'm definitely pulling back the highlights, looking good here. We're gonna move on. I'm gonna hit Alt-S for another node. I'm gonna right click, change label, and I'm gonna call this contrast and saturation. And now I'm gonna switch back over to my primary button. And down here in the bottom, you have your contrast, your pivot, which I don't ever use, your saturation, and your hue. So now I'm gonna give it a little bit of contrast, which as you see, my contrast node is actually making my highlights appear even more bright. So we'll fix that in a second. And I'm gonna give it some saturation. You see the red's really getting saturated, even the cat's fur if I drag this up. Now you can do too much, so just be careful. You don't want to overdo the saturation in your footage, but because I'm actually going to be just focusing on the eyes at the end of this shot, I can go ahead and saturate it a lot because this won't matter because this will be black and white. So now that I've got that looking good, I'm going to come back over to my highs, mids, and lows because my highs are getting a little blown out in the face again. So now I'm going to use the curves adjustment to kind of get this looking where I want it to be. So maybe pull this down just a touch. See how my highlights are now starting to come back in the cat's face. I'm going to pull this up to give it some more background a little bit. All right, something like that is looking pretty good. If I hit Shift D, I can see where we came from and where we are now. It's definitely looking a lot better. You can see the cat's face is really blown out in my original footage, but now I've been able to recover a lot of that detail that was in the cat's fur, and we're just making everything look really super nice in general. All right, so now that we've got that, I'm gonna come over here, I'm gonna hit Alt-S for my new node. I'm gonna label this, and I'm gonna call it I Select. And now what I wanna do is I wanna come in here, zoom in on the color that I want to select, and up here along the top of this panel, you have your curves adjustment, you have your selective color adjustment where you can select different colors in DaVinci, you have masks, you have mask tracking, blur stuff, you have some keying, you have some sizing. We're not really gonna go over any of these today, we're only gonna be focused on color and mask tracking, and I'll show you why in a second, but let's just keep going, try not to get confused. I know I'm going through this really fast, but if you have to rewatch this video, rewatch the video, but hold it. Use the knowledge that you learned in today's video to do your own cool thing, or don't just copy me. If you want to copy me, the footage of this cat is in the video description below. You can download it. Go ahead. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my little eyedropper and I'm just going to select the green part of the eyes. Now, I saw some stuff move around down here and switch. My node just went gray up here, so what does that actually mean? If I hit Shift H on the keyboard, that is the highlight command. So you're basically highlighting what you just selected in your footage. And if I were to move the width of this, you'll see that I start to incorporate more of the greens in the eyes. So I'm gonna do something like that. You have your saturation and your luminance. So if I pull this down, it's basically pulling how densely things are saturated in your scene and how much they are illuminated in the scene. So if I go lower, you'll see it starts to get a lot of the background greens behind the cat. And as I get up to the higher register where there's higher luminance, it's only starting to really focus on the eyes. So that's really all I want right now, is I just want to focus on the eyes. So that's looking pretty good now. And over here on the right side of the color selection thing, you have a couple different options over here. What you're gonna wanna use now is clean black and clean white. And if I crank up clean black, you'll start to see that it's getting rid of some of the like super dense, dark green, like hard lines around the outside of the eye. And that's exactly what we want. We just wanna soften it up just a little bit. And clean white will start to incorporate more of the whites and not get rid of them. So I'm just gonna barely touch on the clean whites just to get a nice look and feel here for my eyes. Now that's looking really good. We have some greens down here. I wouldn't worry about that right now, but once we have the green eyes selected, I'm gonna hit Shift H again to unhighlight everything. And I'm gonna come right down here over to the top of selection range, this little like loopy arrow thing, and that's invert. So basically I'm inverting everything that's not green. And I'm gonna come down here to my color panel and I'm gonna pull down saturation all the way to 0. And now, as you see, it's beautiful. Everything is in black and white except for the eyes and this little green thing down here, which we're going to fix in just a moment. And now we are starting to get there, ladies and gentlemen. Pretty cool. DaVinci is a super powerful program. Let's make a new node, Alt-S, rename this, eyes only. And I'm gonna come over to our next panel, which is masks. I'm going to click on the circle to create a circle mask. And I am basically going to just select my cat's eyes here, just like so. Hit this little button, which is the invert button with the white circle inside the square. And I'm going to zoom back out so you can see what I'm doing here. And now I'm going to desaturate everything outside of the realm of this mask. So I'm gonna get rid of this green down here. So I'm gonna pull down the saturation. There you go, looking good. And another node, Alt-S. And this is where we're gonna do our selective eye color. So I'm gonna change that eye color. I'm going to create a new mask again over the eyes. And I'm going to show you guys the mask tracking. So basically, I want to track everything that's inside of this mask, which is my cat's eyes, because the scene does move. I don't necessarily have to do this at this point, but I'm going to show you guys anyway because this feature is super cool. Come over to the mask tracker, and I'm going to put this at the very beginning of my clip. Make sure that this is set where I want it to be set. And very, very easy and very, very powerfully, I'm just going to click on this little play forward button. And it's going to mask on my footage the cat's movements. You can see that there's some lines down here that represent that. Very cool. And now, on this eye color node, I can come down here in my primaries and I can start adjusting the hue. And I can change this cat's eyes to be whatever color I want. So if I wanted them to be blue instead of green, I'm gonna drag it into like a nice blue area right there. And all of my high, mids, and low adjustments will work as well. So I'm just gonna start adjusting these here. So I'm gonna lower down my mids to make them like a darker blue. I'm gonna lower down my shadows as well. maybe boost my highlights just a bit to really make them pop. Come over here and we can use the curves adjustment like you guys are used to in like Photoshop and After Effects and stuff like that to really start bringing out those colors. And at any point, you can come and just change them. You'd be like, you know what? I don't want them to be blue. I want them to be red or pink or whatever. Whatever you guys want to do, that's how you do it. And now for the last piece de resistance, I will add another node and I will change the label to Final Touches. I'm going to come over into my logarithmic blacks and I'm just going to darken everything in the scene to make it look really moody and really cinematic. And now here is our finished product of the cat with blue eyes. If I hit Shift D, that's where we came from, and this is where we ended up. Really super cool. Again, really powerful program, and I hope that this wasn't too overwhelming or too confusing for you guys. DaVinci is a very powerful program. It seems really confusing and really overwhelming, but hopefully this video has shed some light on how easy it actually is to get around once you know where things are. Finally, once you've color graded everything and done this on whatever you want to do, just experiment with it, you can come over here to Deliver. And over here are kind of your settings. So let's go to video. We're going to export at QuickTime ProRes 422 HQ at 1080 23976. That all looks good. You can render individual clips, which if you did what we did at the beginning and you did scene cut detection, it will export every one of these as an individual clip so that you can bring it into Premiere and you can do whatever with it. Or you can do it as a single clip, which will just render from beginning to end exactly what you brought in and exactly what you brought out. And if we come over here to File, you can use a custom file name. So you can name it something like Sequence Grade. And then you can tell it where to go up here where it says File Location, Browse, and then you can put it anywhere you want. So wherever you guys want to save it, click OK. And then come over here to the first clip, hold down Shift, select the last clip just to be safe. And you're going to click Add to Render Queue, and then you're going to hit Start Render. And then it's done rendering, and you guys have color graded in DaVinci Resolve. I'm so proud of you. Whew, let me catch my breath. That was a lot of information. But just do me a favor and don't be scared of it. 1, this program is free. Utilize it. 2, it's super powerful. Way more powerful than any of the color grading stuff inside of Premiere. 3, you have way more control over everything in your scene as far as color is concerned. You can do your logarithmic highs, mids, and lows, your primaries, your saturation, your contrast, all of that is at your fingertips, and you now know how to access those tools. 4, the mask tracking in DaVinci is stupid good. Use it. 5, if somebody asks you to do something, you can be like, yeah, I color grade in DaVinci, and they'll be like, what's that? And you'll be like, no, don't worry about it. It's just the best program ever. 6, I hope you found this video useful. Keep the comments coming, guys. Keep the emails coming. Ask me questions. I will be doing more DaVinci Resolve tutorials in the future. There's a lot involved in this program. I know that I covered a lot today, but there's like tremendously more. The user manual for the program is like 800 something pages. So like if you want a good read, I suggest reading the DaVinci manual. I don't actually suggest doing that. That's not a good idea. Well, that about does it for me, guys. My name is Not Ian Sands. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat at Not Ian Sands, of course. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and also check out the last video that you missed to stay up to date on all things learn how to edit stuff. Also, write in the comment section below or shoot me a tweet or anything if you have any questions that you want answered. I will answer them happily. Thank you for stopping by. Go color grade something, and I'll see you later.